The moment I turned the key in the lock, I sensed something was wrong. Strangers' high heels were scattered at the entrance, and the living room was a mess, indicating the same thing. Calmly, I squatted down to tidy up the shoes. When I looked up again, a graceful woman was standing at the door of Cedric Weir and my bedroom. She playfully twirled a strand of hair around her finger and looked at me with amusement. The cleaner? I didn't answer and went straight to the room to get my things. The woman followed me barefoot, continuously using words related to Cedric to provoke me. But I didn't care at all. Because I was bound by the mute girl system. With only 3 days left to unbind, I started secretly clearing out my belongings from Cedric's house. But the bracelet that was originally in the drawer was nowhere to be found. Suddenly, the woman behind me shook her wrist, and a clear sound rang out, "Are you looking for this?" My heart sank, and I turned to see the bracelet on her wrist. Yesterday, Cedric gave it to me. At first, I thought it wasn't good enough, but now I think it's quite nice. Things do seem more valuable when someone else wants them, don't you think? I typed a line on my phone and showed it to her. "Cedric, where you can have, but give me back the bracelet." She glanced at it and nonchalantly took off the bracelet, saying with a hint of regret, "All right, consider it my breakup fee on behalf of Cedric." I opened my palm to take the bracelet. But the next second, she smiled and tossed my bracelet high into the air. Without thinking, I instinctively used my body to cushion its fall. My back hit the sharp corner of the table hard. The extreme pain made me curl up on the ground, unable to move, clutching the bracelet I had saved at the last moment. The loud noise woke Cedric Weir from his sleep. "What's all the noise?" He stopped at the door, seeing me lying on the ground pale, and mockingly sneered. "Aren't you always the most generous? I just brought Jessica back for a night, and you're already jealous and fighting with her?" Jessica, the woman, clung to his arm, seeking credit. "No, I almost dropped the bracelet just now, but this lady dove to save it from breaking." "Bracelet?" Cedric raised an eyebrow. Squatting next to me, he tried to take the bracelet from my hand, but he couldn't pry my fingers open. Sweat beaded on my forehead, and I shook my head desperately, biting my lip. His features were stern, and when he got angry, he looked particularly ruthless. "I told you to let go." We were at a stalemate. His eyes glanced at my phone on the ground. Cedric let go of me. Instead, he picked up the phone and asked, "Explain what you mean by Cedric where you can have?" Seeing this, Jessica promptly walked over and took the opportunity to show her loyalty to Cedric. "She never truly loved you, unlike me, who's always had only you in my heart." Jessica's words hit Cedric's sore spot. In a fit of rage, Cedric pushed Jessica away. Jessica was frightened by his unpredictable temper. But I was used to it and finished packing my things, ready to leave. Cedric sat on the living room sofa. "Even though my brother has been dead for 10 years, I still can't compare to his bracelet, right?" I paused slightly at the entrance, shook my head gently, and then walked away. Ding! webnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. It's not because he can win, but in my heart, there's never been any comparison between them. 10 years ago, I was bound to the mute girl system. As long as I stayed by his side for 10 years without speaking, I could get a wish and $100 million. I silently followed Cedric Weir, always available no matter the time or place. I watched him frequent various pleasure venues, changing women one after another. He tried to provoke me with these things, but I remained silent, just like my voice. That day, he was drinking with a few of his playboy friends. They joked about Cedric's peculiar taste for keeping a mute girl by his side. Cedric glanced at me, who had a very low presence in the corner, and sneered. "It's because she can't speak that she's more tolerant than others. Who else could put up with me like she does?" Those people burst into knowing laughter after hearing this. I lowered my head even further, silently counting down the days bound by the system. I never liked Cedric Weir. If it weren't for that wish, I would feel disgusted staying by his side for even one more day. And that wish had nothing to do with him. I took the bracelet and bought a bouquet of flowers, driving to the Martyrs' Cemetery. Angus Weir's tombstone was very clean, almost spotless. But I still habitually took out a handkerchief from my bag and wiped the photo on the tombstone bit by bit. He was Cedric Weir's half-brother. Unlike the absolute scoundrel Cedric, Angus was the best person I had ever met in my life. But for some reason, good people always seem to have short lives. The day Angus died, I waited all night at Victoria Harbour. We had agreed to watch the New Year's fireworks together, but he received intel from an informant at the last minute and had to cancel. Until the fireworks exploded across the sky, lighting up the entire night. The crowd was bustling, but like the fireworks, they faded with time, leaving the place desolate. Only I stood there until dawn. He never came. Ben, who always delivered messages for him, called me. He said Angus asked if the fireworks were beautiful and if I was crying again. Angus was incredibly smart, able to predict everything that would happen after his death. Except for my obsession. If fate wants lovers to be separated and good people to have short lives, then I will defy it. Mr. Hood, who was in charge of the cemetery, happened to see me and greeted me. "Miss Ivy, I've been seeing you here a lot lately." I smiled and nodded in response. "Yes. In a few days, I can bring him home. Because my wish is to bring Angus back to life." Leaving the cemetery, I didn't return to Cedric's house but went to the small apartment Angus and I had bought together. We spent almost all our savings to buy this place. When Angus died, it was still just a bare shell. Over the years, I lived frugally, using my salary bit by bit to complete the house's decoration. Every carpet, every table and chair, every warm lamp was arranged according to our preferences. As soon as he comes back, this will truly become a home. In the quiet night, the urgent knocking on the door was particularly jarring. I got up and looked through the peephole to see Cedric holding a bottle of wine. His face was flushed, his steps unsteady, and he was shouting for me to open the door. I frowned and immediately turned off the lights in the room, pretending no one was home. Seeing no response to his knocking, Cedric sneered, put down the bottle, and kicked the door hard. Leaning against the door, the vibrations still made my heart tremble. "I've been standing downstairs for half an hour, saw your lights on, and know you're in there. Open the door. If you don't open the door, we're breaking up. I'll count to 3. This was a common tactic of Cedric. Every time we had a disagreement or conflict, he would threaten to break up. I couldn't leave him, so I always backed down. This trick always worked for him. 1, 2. Cedric's countdown felt like a dull knife cutting into my heart. Only 3 days left, I couldn't break up with him, or all my efforts would be wasted. I took a deep breath, quickly opened the door, stepped outside, and immediately closed the door behind me. Since I didn't want Cedric to come in, I had to go out. The hallway lights flickered on and off. Half of Cedric's face was hidden in darkness, his eyes shining as he stared at me, his tone sounding much more pleased. "I knew you wouldn't leave me." His tall figure easily trapped me in the corner behind the door with one hand. The strong smell of alcohol made me uncomfortable, and I turned my head away from his advances. Cedric paused, then laughed lowly, as if thinking of something. "Are you pretending to be chaste in front of my brother's house?" His words were always harsh. Even though I tried not to listen, I couldn't help the urge to slap him. You and he were indeed a perfect match. One pretended to be aloof and wouldn't be with me, then ran to me after my brother died, staying by my side for 10 years. The other pretended to be aloof and wouldn't acknowledge my father, insisting on being a cop, and ended up dead without even a bone left to collect. "Ivy, what do you think my brother's expression would be if he knew I still got you in the end?" "All right," I couldn't hold back. As Cedric continued to speak, I slapped him across the face. I was trembling with anger. I didn't care what Cedric said about me. But he was the least qualified person in the world to criticize Angus. Cedric grew up as the cherished and pampered child of the powerful family conglomerate. Angus did not, like me, he grew up in an orphanage. In the first few days at the orphanage, I didn't dare speak to anyone. Even though the orphanage was full of children, there were more wolves than meat, and a system of survival of the fittest naturally formed. My share of the food was always taken by kids taller than me. They gave me the dampest, foul-smelling bedding and made me do all the dirty work no one else wanted to touch. As time went on, I not only developed rashes all over my body but also became the most emaciated child in the orphanage. Whenever someone came to adopt, they would pinch their noses and avoid me. One by one, the children were adopted, and I was always left behind. The director shook his head whenever he looked at me and gave me a new name. He said, "Let's call you Ivy, sounds like if. If someone might adopt me one day." My name was a small, unattainable concept. It also destined me to always be a bit short of luck in whatever I wanted to achieve in life. Until our orphanage merged with another orphanage. More children, whom I couldn't compete with, appeared, and my chances of being abandoned and bullied increased significantly. One night, I decided to run away. I hid in a grass patch full of flies and bugs, lying low for an entire day. The scorching sun and my parched lips left me exhausted. Finally, when they gave up searching and were about to turn off the lights, my opportunity came. I tied sheets into strips and hung them over the wall. But just 20 centimeters from the top, the strip broke. I fell from the wall and broke a leg. I was caught and brought back. The director beat me with a bamboo stick and locked me in the confinement room. When my confinement ended, an older boy came to get me. He was composed beyond his years, his appearance still carrying traces of boyishness, but he spoke seriously and earnestly. He told me, "If you want to leave here, you first need to give up the idea of running away." Later, he taught me how to resist, how to fight for what was rightfully mine. I helped him take care of a stray cat in the backyard, just like us. He saved up all his labor credits for a year to get me a birthday cake made entirely of plant-based cream. I gradually became curious about him. I asked, "You don't have any defects or diseases, and you look good. How come no one adopts you?" He told me it was because he was waiting for his mother to come and get him. When someone came to adopt, he would play dumb and pretend to be sick, doing everything he could to be left behind, so he could wait for his mother. I laughed and said, "No one wants to adopt me either. We can keep each other company, pretend we adopted each other." Then, one day, a group of obviously wealthy people came. He shoved a bracelet into my hand and pushed me out from behind. Instinctively, I turned to look, only to see him running into the basement without looking back. The group saw the bracelet and, overjoyed, took me away despite my resistance. I later found out these were people from the Weir family. Mr. Weir had a first love, and they used a bracelet as a token of their affection. Later, Mr. Weir abandoned his pregnant girlfriend for a family marriage and married someone else. In his old age, Mr. Weir, now in power, wanted to find the mother and child he had wronged. After some inquiries, he learned that his girlfriend had died a few years after giving birth, and the child was sent to an orphanage. They didn't even find out if the child was a boy or a girl. The person Mr. Weir was looking for was the one who had always been by my side. That day, I learned his name was Angus Weir. He hated the Weir family and didn't want to go with them. But he also knew that with the Weir family's wealth and Mr. Weir's guilt, being adopted would ensure a good life. So Angus pushed me out, hoping I could take his place and be happy. But Angus was just a child and underestimated Mr. Weir's caution. On the first day at the Weir family, we did a paternity test. The story ended with me being sent away again, Mr. Weir taking back the bracelet, and forcibly taking Angus Weir from the orphanage. If it ended here, I would actually feel a sense of completeness. Some warmth, once possessed temporarily, can save me countless times during cold, dark nights. But if held in my palm all the time, it would burn through my flesh and make life unbearable. My name is Ivy, like if, always lacking a bit of luck. At the age of 19, to save up for tuition and living expenses, I took a break from school and worked at a 24-hour convenience store. This day, it was my turn to work the night shift. During the shift change, my colleague reminded me, "Lately, this area hasn't been very safe. Be careful when you're alone, the alarm is under the desk." I said okay, but didn't really take it to heart. The convenience store was very quiet late at night, with only the ticking of the clock breaking the silence. The doorbell rang, and I instinctively said, "Welcome." It wasn't until I smelled a faint scent of blood in the air that I realized something was wrong. My nerves immediately tensed up. Standing at the cash register, my hand was already on the alarm button underneath. A man dressed in a dark red floral shirt, common among the local gangsters, with a large casual jacket over it, walked in. His forehead was sweaty, wetting his hair, and his face was pale, looking very much in pain. He staggered to the counter and slapped down a wad of cash. "Listen to me first." He frowned, but his voice was steady. My hand stayed on the alarm, listening to what he had to say next. He looked up at me, and after seeing my face, seemed slightly taken aback. I'm very sensitive to people's gazes and immediately realized he was looking at the scar on my temple. It was from when I tried to escape the orphanage and fell from the wall. Usually, I cover it with my hair, so not many people notice it. The man stopped talking, and after a moment of silence, he tentatively spoke. Ivy? What if we could meet again? When fate happens, we never know if it's a blessing or a punishment. It's just destined to happen this way. Angus and I didn't have time to catch up. The group following him was closing in. The storage room was hidden, so I hid him in there. The alarm under the counter was very helpful. When they grabbed my neck and asked where Angus was, I desperately pressed the alarm. The leader cursed and stopped his subordinate from shooting me. Once the police lights started flashing, they hurriedly left the convenience store. I ran to the storage room and turned on the light. Angus's lower abdomen was bleeding profusely, and he had already fainted from the pain. I lifted his shirt, trying to use the store's supplies to give him a simple bandage before the ambulance arrived. His body was burning hot, and besides this wound, his lean waist was covered with many old scars. In his daze, he told me not to send him to the hospital no matter what. In the end, I took him home and called someone using a number he gave me. The person who came with the medical kit was Ben. He was said to be a close friend of Angus, having gone through life and death together. He skillfully treated Angus's wound, gave me some instructions, and then left in a hurry. And so, Angus stayed at my place for over half a month. We talked a lot about the past we hadn't shared, and the future we knew was impossible but still hoped for. Some people, even if you see them every day, you may not be able to fully open up to them. But some people, even after many years, even if their appearance is no longer the same as in your memory, can instantly fill all the gaps of the past, as if you were never apart. Angus told me that after the Weir family lifted his house arrest, he went back to the orphanage to look for me. But by then, I had already successfully escaped. He didn't like that home and would rather be a free beggar than be part of the Weir family's facade. He came here initially just to get as far away from the Weir family as possible. Later, he found a career here that he was willing to fight for all his life, so he stayed. I asked him what exactly he was doing. Angus said, as you can see, a thug collecting protection fees. What kind of lifelong career is collecting protection fees? And why wouldn't he go to the hospital with so many injuries? Angus said nonchalantly, no health insurance, can't afford it. He was willing to answer all my questions, except he wouldn't seriously answer these two. I'm not stupid, even if he didn't tell the truth, I could vaguely guess. We had a tacit understanding and never mentioned it again. He came here to avoid the Weir family and pursue his own ideals. And I came here because the hourly wage for part-time work is the highest. Such a 1-in-a-million chance encounter could actually happen to me. For the first time, I started to like my own name. Angus might be just as grateful as I am for such a twist of fate. He often brings Ben to the store to buy some random things. They could spend an hour carefully selecting a pack of cigarettes together. The store manager even asked me in private if I had hired 2 bodyguards to protect me. At first, he only appeared during meal times, using it as an excuse to ask me out for dinner. Later, he started waiting at the street corner half an hour before my shift ended, showing up at the convenience store right on time. On Christmas Eve, Angus was sitting in a sports car wearing exaggerated, flashy red sunglasses. As soon as I stepped out of the convenience store, he honked the horn. He pushed up his sunglasses, and his affectionate eyes looked at me with a smile. Hey beautiful, care for a ride? Idiot. Who rents a convertible in the middle of winter? The biting wind quickly taught Angus a lesson, and within 2 minutes, he put the top up. A Christmas tree as tall as a small house was set up by the West Kowloon waterfront. The dazzling lights lit up at night, looking like a sprinkle of diamonds on the tree from afar. Before coming, a colleague used a curling iron to give me big waves. She said that with the curls, I would become a fashionable girl and mesmerize my boyfriend. Boyfriend. This word kept echoing in my mind. Each time it made my heart beat like a drum. I didn't know if Angus was mesmerized, but he spent the entire night rubbing his chin against the top of my head. I heard him mumble, "You feel like a teddy bear. Stupid straight guy. When the clock struck 12, Angus pulled out a box from behind him and handed it to me. Merry Christmas. I carefully opened the box. The first Christmas gift I ever received was a bracelet from Angus. This bracelet was one of the few relics left by his mother. The gift felt incredibly heavy in my hand, and I didn't dare to move. Such a heavy gift, I couldn't bear it. Angus seemed to see all my insecurity and embarrassment, and he stood right in front of me. In the cold wind of the night, Angus's ears were red from the cold, his eyes still deep and bright, leaving an indelible mark on my heart. He said, "It doesn't just mean probability, it can also signify something uniquely precious. It can also mean all my happiness is in seeing you at that moment." I said year after year that I would be happy next year. Finally, this year it came true. Winter has come again. Angus, let's spend it together. After Christmas, Angus didn't show up for a long time. I couldn't reach him by phone. Only Ben occasionally came to the store to let me know he was okay. I asked him when Angus would be back. Ben scratched his head, clearly not having a definite answer from Angus. Days passed uneventfully. The store got new collaborative merchandise. I was busy putting several boxes of items on the shelves. Squatting for too long, I felt dizzy when I stood up, and my body instinctively fell backward. A large, warm hand instantly caught me. Angus suddenly appeared behind me. It seemed he had been there for a while, and I was slow to notice. Angus just looked at me quietly, the tenderness in his eyes dissolving all the distance of the past days. I joyfully threw myself into his arms, the scent of cedar instantly enveloping me. "Why are you here? Don't you remember I'm your bodyguard?" "I'm here to collect some protection fees." With that, Angus wrapped me in his thick coat and gently kissed my forehead. From that day on, every time I stood in front of that shelf arranging goods, I would expect Angus to suddenly appear behind me. After Angus's death, this feeling only grew stronger. Even when I stood at similar counters in other supermarkets, I had the same expectation. Expecting a warm embrace, expecting the familiar scent of cedar. My 10,000 turns still couldn't bring a single fulfillment. It seemed fate had never been kind to me. Every gift that made me lower my guard eventually got taken back in an even more tragic way. After causing a ruckus with Cedric, I called the butler at the Weir family's old residence to have him take Cedric back. He was drunk and acting out wildly. One moment he was cursing at me, the next at Angus, and then he started cursing at old Mr. Weir for being a womanizer and giving him a brother. Old Mr. Weir cares a lot about his reputation. Seeing Cedric in the state at home would surely make him suffer some consequences. After I got home, I took a half-hour shower to completely wash off the smell of alcohol from Cedric. I sprayed the blanket with cedar-scented perfume. This bottle is the closest I could find to Angus's scent. I wrapped myself entirely in the blanket. A person walking alone on a winter night always needs to find some way to save themselves. This scent made me feel very at ease. That night, I slept soundly, a rare occurrence. I even dreamed of Angus from many years ago. It was on my birthday. Angus took me on a sightseeing bus. I had always said that after seeing the streets of Victoria Harbour 1,000 times, there was no need to spend money on a more expensive sightseeing bus to see it again. But on my birthday, I allowed myself a bit of indulgence. His appearances were becoming less and less frequent. Sometimes once a week, sometimes only once a month. Even today, when he came out to accompany me on the sightseeing bus, we couldn't sit next to each other. Angus sat in the seat in front of me. The single Bluetooth earbud in his ear was playing the same song as the other half in my ear. The sightseeing bus passed by the dazzling and dense neon lights. The prosperity of Victoria Harbour had never been related to me. A song randomly played in the earbud. The ruthless pair of lonely orphans, temporarily overcoming hardships. In the sea of bitterness, at least we relied on each other. Angus's presence once made me feel as if I had some sort of connection with this world. But now, even though he was sitting right in front of me, the distance between us felt even greater than the 10+ years we had been apart. My sixth sense has always been very accurate. Later, I realized that this distance was a farewell and death. The first half of life was a separation by life, the latter half by death. If there really is sweetness after the bitterness. I truly don't know what kind of sweetness could justify this journey of hardships. The next morning, as soon as I woke up, I booked a plane ticket. I wanted to go to Victoria Harbour, to Kowloon, to that convenience store. The closer it got to the day Angus would come back, the more anxious I became. As soon as the plane landed, my phone instantly received dozens of messages from Cedric. Cedric felt that as his girlfriend, I should be on call full day, ready to reply to his messages at any time. I scrolled down. There were no breakup messages. So there was no need to reply. When I got on the double-decker sightseeing bus, Cedric persistently called. Calling him mute, I don't know what Cedric was thinking. Did you break your hand or get into a car accident and fall into a coma in the hospital? Not replying to a single message, have I been spoiling you too much lately? I suddenly felt that Angus owed me quite a lot. For his sake, I had put up with his foul-mouthed, crazy brother for 10 years. Cedric kept talking to himself on the other end. Seeing that I was silent, he suddenly burst out, "Are you mute? Say something." After the outburst, there was a deathly silence. Cedric's short-circuited brain finally seemed to have recovered. He coughed lightly twice. "Remember to reply to my messages and send me your current location. I'll come find you." Even if I don't proactively send Cedric my location, he will find his way to me sooner or later. Just like 10 years ago. Actually, our first meeting wasn't in the mainland. Cedric's back looks very much like Angus's. It even made me mistake him for Angus the first time I saw him. At that time, he was standing in front of the candy retail shelf. My colleague quietly signaled me to look over there. "Your boyfriend is here again." I felt delighted and walked over to pat his shoulder. "Not collecting protection fees today?" When the man turned around, a face completely different from Angus's left me dumbfounded. His gaze was very different from Angus's. Cedric never concealed his intentions and ambitions when looking at someone. I felt uncomfortable under his stare, apologized, and turned to leave. Cedric suddenly grabbed me, looking at me with great interest. "Mistaken identity?" "Yes, I'm very sorry, sir. From your accent, you're from the north, right?" I nodded, just wanting to get away quickly. "I'm from the north too, and I have a brother who came here alone." "Maybe you mistook me for my brother." Just as I thought there couldn't be such a coincidence in the world, Angus appeared. He rushed over and separated me from Cedric, protecting me behind him as if facing a formidable enemy. "What are you doing here?" It was the first time I heard Angus speak so seriously. The tension between the two was palpable, the air thick with hostility. Cedric leaned casually against the shelf, smiling at us. "Just came to see what kind of good life my illegitimate brother is having here." He glanced at me behind Angus and slipped a business card under a piece of chocolate on the shelf. "Little girl, people always aim higher. You might as well come with me. Remember to call me." Cedric was born to be my nemesis. Since he appeared here, everything quietly changed. Angus's injuries began to increase, and he went out more frequently. I knew his tasks were becoming more dangerous. The most serious time, Ben called me to go to a private hospital. Ben stood outside the ward, asking me to be mentally prepared. Even though I nodded in agreement, my defenses collapsed the moment I saw the person lying quietly on the bed. Angus's face was pale, without a trace of blood, looking as if he was asleep or dead. I was at a loss, panicking and directionless. I collapsed on the white bed cover, crying my heart out, until Ben couldn't bear to watch anymore. He knocked on the door and said to Angus with a look of exasperation, "Haven't you had enough of pretending?" I looked up in a daze, meeting Angus's triumphant eyes. I was furious with him. Joking to this extent was too much, even if it was Angus. But that time, Angus had indeed almost died. He was severely injured and sent to the hospital, only saved from the brink of death by sheer luck. Seeing that I was genuinely planning to ignore him, Angus got a bit anxious. Any movement tugged at his wounds, causing him to grimace in pain. I sighed and gave in. "Next time you're going to do something dangerous, you have to tell me, and don't pretend to be dead to trick me again." I had a rough idea of what he was doing. But I couldn't tell him not to go. Angus didn't belong to just me. He was a hero. A hero who had to protect many people. Angus nodded solemnly. "Then, do you have time on New Year's Eve?" "Yes." Let's meet at Victoria Harbor. I have something very important for you. All right, see you there. On the way back from the hospital, a black car intercepted me. Cedric rolled down the window and looked at me, resting his head on his hand. You never call me, so I had to come find you. Ever since our first meeting, Angus warned me to be careful with his younger brother. Cedric is deeply scheming. Whatever his brother likes, he wants to take away. His pathological desire to win has long blinded him. I couldn't be bothered to respond to Cedric throwing another olive branch at me because of his ridiculous desire to win. He smiled at me as I walked away and called out to me. Let's make a bet, you'll regret it soon. Cedric was right. A month later, I went to find him, clinging to his side shamelessly. Because Angus had died. That day, Ben handed Angus's will to me. Before every mission, they would write a will for their family. Angus's will was always written for me since he had no other family. The will was a thick stack. Each letter was a moment of life and death. There were many moments in the past that I didn't know about when I almost lost him. But this last time, Angus ran out of luck and couldn't come back to me. Ben said that the last will was recorded in audio form because the mission was urgent. The background noise on the other end was a bit chaotic. It took a long time for Angus to speak. Ivy, sorry I broke my promise again. I'm very sorry for making you worry these days. But I think when I come back this time, I can seriously tell you what I've been doing. If I don't come back, I'll tell you here. I'm a police officer. 2 years ago, we discovered that there were collusions between black market traders and drug dealers in this area. To completely eradicate them, the team sent me undercover as a low-level member. We've already taken down 4 of their hideouts, only 1 left. When this mission is over, I'll report to the team and take a good vacation. We'll go back to our hometown together. I'll pay for your tuition. I even bought a house in our hometown for you. I found the property deed tucked under the stack of wills. Angus suddenly chuckled. After all, your household registration is over there, it's hard to transfer it here. I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. By then, we'll decorate it together, buy the furniture we like together, and live together. Angus took a deep breath and said nervously, Ivy, I love you. The recording ended. I stood in the bustling crowd, listening to that last sentence over and over again. Victoria Harbor never sees snow. But suddenly, I felt there should be a heavy snowfall right now. To protest against an unjust world that lets good people die young. But it doesn't matter. I will defy fate and bring Angus back. On the last day of the mission, I waited by the clock for the stroke of midnight. The pendulum swung, and midnight passed. I immediately sent Cedric a breakup message and blocked him. As dawn broke, I arranged to meet Ben. It was time for the 10-year-old truth to be revealed. I handed him a USB drive. It was filled with evidence of Cedric's collusion with gangsters and drug dealers, leaking police operations 10 years ago. Cedric Weir, that fool. Did he really think I stayed by his side for 10 years just to be a mute punching bag? I sensed something was wrong back then. Cedric's appearance and his words were too coincidental. I endured for 10 years and investigated for 10 years. The Weir family had long been rotten. Since the old Mr. Weir became somewhat senile and Cedric took control of the family, it was all gold and jade on the outside, but rotten on the inside. I not only found evidence of him being a double agent but also found a lot of evidence of the Weir family's bribery. Whether it's the criminal court or the military court, Cedric Weir won't get away with it. Ben held the USB drive to his chest. The nearly 2-meter-tall man silently cried in front of me. Thank you. Justice will prevail. No good person should die in vain. Cedric Weir, that lunatic. After I blocked all his contact methods, he flew over directly to find me. He pulled the same old trick, blocking me on the street with his car. I turned to leave, but he got out of the car, took a few quick steps, and tightly wrapped his arms around my waist. Why break up? How could you bear to break up with me? Cedric's breath fell on my ear, making me feel a chill. I struggled out of his embrace and turned around, slapping him hard. Cedric was caught off guard. The slap made him stagger, nearly losing his balance. He covered one side of his face, staring at me in disbelief. Ivy. Why? I took a deep breath and said, "Save your questions for the lawyer. I think you'll soon be too busy to handle it all." Cedric fixated on a strange point. He barely listened to what I said and instead rushed over, grabbing my shoulders excitedly. "Ivy, you can speak?" When the system found me to do the mission, it let me choose a side effect. I chose not to speak. With some people, saying one more word feels too much. And with some people, 1,000 words are not enough. Cedric Weir was the former. Facing him, I had nothing to say, so I chose to be mute. I pried Cedric's fingers off one by one. Word by word. Not only can I speak now, but when we get to court, I'll do my best to testify. Traitor, just wait to rot in prison. Cedric frowned, looking deeply hurt. Ivy, I don't understand. We were fine just a few days ago. If you're mad at me for giving away your bracelet, I apologize. I just wanted more of your attention. Ivy, let's not do this anymore, okay? Come back with me, let's live well together. People who make mistakes have no right to say live well together. If someone like Cedric Weir could live well, that would be the greatest injustice. I hate Cedric Weir. I hate him with a gnashing of teeth. He didn't feel my hatred before, so now he just thinks I'm throwing a tantrum. But every silent night, I restrain the monstrous hatred in my heart. I restrain myself from killing the person lying beside me with one stab. It's not worth it. This hatred has brewed for 10 years, becoming an indelible habit. Cedric Weir, people can't fall in love with beasts. Let alone you, who are worse than a beast. The security here is much better than 10 years ago. Cedric's pulling and tugging quickly attracted the police. I successfully broke away from him. Because today, I have something more important to do. The system said that on the day it snows in Victoria Harbor, Angus would return. So I waited at Victoria Harbor. The prosperity here is as before. I know this peace and prosperity were exchanged with the lives of countless people like Angus. So, 10 years of Ivy's life for Angus's life was worth it. But it never snows in Victoria Harbor. I stood from the afternoon until the evening. The distant bells rang. The first day of task completion ended. Angus still hadn't appeared. My voice and the money in my card had arrived. Only Angus hadn't come. I was so cold that my hands and feet were stiff. The patrol team reminded me not to stand here for too long. I smiled and replied, "I'll leave once I pick up my husband." Angus Weir. You said it. Once the task is over, you'll take a long vacation and come back with me. You also said we would renovate the house together. Now I've already finished decorating the house. I guess you'll like the color we painted the walls. If you prefer it here and don't want to go back north, that's fine too. I'm very rich now. I have 100 million, so much money. Buying another small flat here wouldn't be bad, right? Angus, I miss you. I temporarily settled down here. Every day, I would take a walk by Victoria Harbor, hoping that each person I passed by would be him. The weather gradually started to warm up. Not to mention snow, even rain became rare. But life must go on. I didn't want Angus to come back to find me sick and listless. I walked with my head down through the bustling streets. When I looked up, it was a clear, cloudless day. It didn't matter, I was very good at waiting, whether it was 10 years or several decades, it didn't matter. As I turned the corner, a boutique I had never seen before caught my attention. The store was beautifully decorated, in a Danish style. At the entrance, there was a small snow machine. Delicate, light snowflakes fell into my palm. If only you were real, how wonderful it would be. I blew the snowflakes off my palm and continued walking. The phone in my coat pocket rang. I took it out and saw it was an unfamiliar number from out of town. "Hello, who is this?" There was no response from the other side, it was very quiet. "Hello?" Just as I was about to hang up, a familiar voice came through the receiver. "Hey beautiful, care to join me for a ride?" Victoria Harbor had no snow. But this snow had been falling in my heart for 10 years. At this moment, it finally stopped. The snow cleared, and the skies were bright. From then on, every day would be a good day.